Hi, everybody, and welcome. Just one more minute as we wait for some other folks to join. We get to the top of the hour, but look forward to getting started with you here in 1 second. So thank you very much, and look forward to getting started here shortly. Thanks. Shoot. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining. Just one more minute as we get ready to roll. We're going to give another 30 seconds to a minute, and then we'll get started. Alrighty. Thanks everybody for joining. Really excited to be here with you today to talk about creating a safety culture. So my name is Eric Fitardi. I'm happy to share some more information with you today. Here's some basic contact info. I know we're going to be kind of talking about Safety HQ a little bit. The focus is going to be more on best practices and things like that as a whole. So we won't have time to get into the Safety HQ product directly. We're going to talk about it kind of, indirectly as we talk about some of these items as we go. But if you would like a full and in-depth demonstration or a one-to-one connection on Safety HQ, I'd be happy to help. My contact information is here below, and we can go from there whenever it's convenient for you. Just give us a shout. Well, awesome. Today, again, we are talking about creating a safety culture. So as I mentioned, we're going to use Safety HQ here as a little bit of a guide, but we're going to keep this pretty general for all of you guys, regardless of what you guys are doing from a safety perspective. If you guys are using a software, if you guys are doing things by hand, all of those options are going to be here for you. We'll kind of try and talk about all of them. But again, Safety HQ being what we think is one of the better solutions out there is going to be what we'll use as kind of a guide to demonstrate some of these things as well too. So first and foremost, when it comes to creating a safety culture, guys, the first thing that I like to demonstrate and talk about is follow through and updates, right? If you guys want to talk about creating a safety culture, it starts from the top. If you guys don't actually follow through, if there is no emphasis put on prioritizing safety activities, whether that might be toolbox talks, JHA, site inspections, what have you, your team is going to understand that and realize that as you go. That's always something that they're going to see. They're not stupid. They're going to see what you guys emphasize. If you do something like toolbox talks and you never collect those, or if you have them do JHAs or site inspections and you never collect or review those, they are never, contacted, or you don't have a discussion with them if they don't complete these items, that shows that you guys don't really care about safety, at least from a practical sense. So point number one is a safety culture really begins at the top. I think that starts with you guys, whether it's in a leadership role, an administrative role, or a front office or back office role, making sure that we are following through on the safety activities that we want to make sure the team does. One of the biggest and most common safety activities that we always like to talk about here at Safety HQ is toolbox talks. This is the easiest and simplest way to begin your safety journey, right? We're going to talk about a lot of small steps that you can use to build a safety culture as a whole, a larger safety culture. But in here, we got a lot going on, right? Having a weekly toolbox talk is one of the most important things that you can do to emphasize to your team that safety is important. It shows that you're willing to take some time out of your day to focus and emphasize on these things. It shows that it does matter, that you guys are aware of some of the hazards and concerns that they deal with on the job site. And again, it just shows that this is a priority for them as a whole. How do you do your toolbox talks? Well, yeah, for doing this for a number of years, I've seen these in a bunch of different ways, right? I've seen toolbox talks that are emailed out with pay stubs. I've seen toolbox talks that are emailed to the teams individually. I've seen paper toolbox talks, all the latter. The problem with a lot of those solutions, guys, is that it makes it really difficult to handle that logistically. If it's a paper toolbox talk that you have the whole team sign, great. How and when is that going to get back to you? I don't know. It's probably going to end up on the floorboards in a little bit. And if you're lucky, maybe you'll get 6 or 7 of them at a time. Coffee stains, mud on them, what have you, a couple of months late. Being up to date on your toolbox talks is the most critical piece. Again, that goes to the first thing that we were talking about, is emphasizing this culture throughout your organization. It starts at the top. If you fall behind and folks aren't doing the toolbox talks, but you aren't getting the toolbox talks until weeks or months after they were supposed to be completed, if at all, that's going to show that either A, it's going to be too late to correct those issues that haven't been done, or B, we just really don't prioritize this enough to chase it down and make sure that these are done timely. So having a method, and again, we recommend Safety HQ because of the timeliness and ease of use, but having a method to complete toolbox talks on a regular, weekly, or even daily basis is the easiest step number one into creating a safety culture, in many opinions. So in order to do so, here in Safety HQ, we got about 250 odd toolbox talks. We can add our own. Toolbox talks can come from all different places, wherever you might be. It's important to keep your toolbox talks relevant to your team, keep them guided, maybe allow them to select their own. We can do both within Safety HQ. All of ours are available in English and Spanish. This is also important regardless of how you do your toolbox talks. You want them to be accessible to your team, right? Everybody needs to be able to understand and see, the particular task at hand or the concerns that we want to review. Again, Safety HQ does that by an easy translate button. But if you guys need to have additional tools on the job site, or a translated version for the groups, if you're doing a paper version, then by all means you have to do that. But making safety accessible to everyone is critical. How else do we do that? In Safety HQ, we can go ahead and schedule these out, so I can decide who I want these toolbox talks to go to, when I want them to go to them, and then they can get those notifications at the date and time. This is the easiest method of collecting and sharing toolbox talks with the team, because you can either schedule them out, or if something critical comes up, maybe you want to talk about, I guess it's, December at the moment, you want to talk about working in the cold, dealing with snow, or, other hazards on the job site, you can keep relevant information and get that in the hands of the folks that need it on a regular or even instant basis if you'd like to. We can schedule these, send these immediately, schedule them out. We can allow them to pick their own. That's all up to you. But the second piece of the puzzle is making this simple and easy to complete. If this is going to be a really time-intensive process, and especially if you guys aren't going to follow up on it, the team is going to give up on it. It's not going to be top of mind. Safety HQ, this is a mobile app, iPhone, Android, tablet, Google Pixel, whatever you guys are using out in the field. Team will get a notification. They can simply and easily hit this no doubt about it yellow button here. Select the project that they're working on. Great. Discuss that toolbox talk with the team and collect signatures. Now, this is going to be another critical component, regardless of how you guys are doing your toolbox talk right now. From an OSHA perspective, you are required to do these on a regular basis, and you are required to track attendance and who's attending that. For Safety HQ, we can tie this directly to an employee list, and all of the attendees will have their attendee history saved to their profile. But from a bigger picture perspective, as long as you have a method of collecting those toolbox talks and being able to pull them up, that's the most important thing. If Peter or Ben in this case are ever involved in an incident or an accident, we can check the history, we can check the files and pull that information up immediately. Additionally, and this is Safety HQ specific, as soon as I submit this completed toolbox talk, that is saved in a easy to review PDF that we can access and share should one of our customers or a GC want to take a look at this. I don't know if you guys can see this, through the GoToWebinar, but you can have a nice professional document customized with your name, logo, company colors, things like that. But more importantly, from a big picture perspective, regardless if you're using a software or not, having these organized. We organize them automatically by project, by who submitted it, by the employees involved, by date range, what have you. So if one of my customer or maybe the GC asked me for all of my toolbox talks for the month of November, I can do so quickly and easily in a matter of minutes. This does a number of things. This shows your customer that, hey, we're on top of safety. This is we are somebody that you can trust on the job site to do what we need to do. A lot of GCs don't want to have to worry about this at all different levels. They want to know that everyone that they hire or bring on to do their job is going to do their part as far as the safety is concerned. And again, this shows your team that you're able to track and manage this regularly. You can see who's doing what when you need. And then if and when something were to ever happen, that's all going to be tied to that employee's profile that you can review at any moment too. So if I want to go ahead and maybe look at Alex in this case, I can see any toolbox talks that Alex has ever been involved in as well. Now back to the most important part that we talked about is follow-up, right? If you go ahead and assign these toolbox talks out, but you don't ever check in and review that, I always correlate this to like homework. If you remember back in the day, depending on all you guys out there, how long it's been since you've been in school, but generally speaking, decades ago when I was in school, I could tell you if the homework assignment was not going to be collected, I was not going to do it. And I think that is pretty common throughout most folks. So if those toolbox talks aren't going to be reviewed, collected, anything like that, how do you expect your participation to be high? So in this case, we can go ahead and confirm that those toolbox talks are done, or in this case with my team, not done. My team's not doing a very good job here. I'm doing fantastic. I'm really staying on top of my toolbox talks as I go. You can see what dates the employees have completed these on, notify employees that are falling behind, route in a manager if they need an extra kick in the rear end. And then from here as well, we also got some options to see how somebody's doing from a big picture perspective as well too. So this is really handy if you're doing any kind of incentive programs, things along those lines. That part kind of brings up another discussion, and that's completely up to you and your team. Whether that comes down to you guys doing an incentive program, whether that, whether it's the carrot or whether it's the stick, I don't know what works best for you guys, but keeping your team motivated and, engaged with these items, either through incentives or, if you want to be harsh on them and you got to choose some people out for not doing those, or maybe it's a combination of both. Either way, your team best and how that's going to work. But the biggest piece of that puzzle is they know there's going to be follow through. They know we're going to stay on top of these items, and we are going to continue to work and make sure that these items are collected and completed on a regular basis. Now, it's always difficult when we start this. For some of you guys who are out there might be saying, hey, I'm just starting my safety program. This, before you get on to anything else, that already seems like a big step. One step at a time, right? You don't need to have all these items done immediately. You can start with toolbox talks. You can grow into some of these other forms and items that we're going to talk about here in a second. But you got to start somewhere. Toolbox talks, again, from an OSHA perspective and just from an easy, an easy step as a whole, that tends to be the easiest place to get going. So if you're doing nothing else and you're doing nothing from a safety perspective, I would recommend, number one, start with toolbox talks and make sure you're, again, collecting those on a regular basis, and these are relevant to the team as you go. So we have begun doing toolbox talks with the team, or maybe we've just kind of tightened our belt a little bit and we're making sure that we're going to focus on this a little bit further and stay on top of our team. Great. That's a good first step. That's going to show the team you're engaged. Continuing to follow through with this throughout the year is paramount. If you do this, week 1 and then they don't hear anything about toolbox talks for the rest of the year, guess what? They're not going to do toolbox talks throughout the rest of the year. So we want to start on that, and we want to continue doing that throughout the year, regardless of what you're having. You can't just do it when you're slow. You can't just do it when you're busy. You can't just do it when GCs or folks are asking for it on a job. That shows that, safety is only important on the job in which we're required to do the JHA or the toolbox talk or whatever that might be. Doing those toolbox talks, JHA, safety activities consistently and across all of our projects, it shows the team that this is important regardless of the job that we're working on or who's watching. It's a company focus, not necessarily just a focus of the job that we're working on. So again, that's how you build the safety culture. You guys are setting the tone, not necessarily the job or whoever you're working for on that particular job. So we kind of continue to evolve here. We'll work into JHAs, site inspections, some things along those lines. Again, I know this might be a second step for you guys, but this is a very important step, and in many ways the most beneficial step, because while toolbox talks are a general discussion of best practices and how we can improve and things to be aware of, the JHA or AHA or whatever you might call them, I know these have 1,000 different names depending on where you're at or what type of work you do. A general job hazard review assessment, whatever that might be, is specific to what they're doing. So this is the one that really hits home. In Safety HQ, we make it really easy. Again, big yellow button, pick a project. We go ahead and add a lot of value by making these forms use logic. So in this case, if I say I'm doing setup and load of materials, it is only going to show me the hazard types related to setup and load of materials. But these JHAs are intended to be collected on the job site. Technically, they should be done every time your task changes, but at the very least, you should be doing them daily or weekly with the team. But these are a whole different step. What these are going to do is keep the team focused and mindful of what's actually going on that job site and things that I need to be aware of. So maybe it's particular fall protection concerns, or maybe on this job we're working outside and we need to be mindful of cold and wet weather. We need to be worried about falling from equipment. Every job is going to present new challenges and concerns. This is a good time to highlight that and review that as a team. Weekly, daily, whatever that might be, that's a discussion for you guys. I know there's some OSHA guidelines that would require you to do them probably more frequently than you are right now. But as a whole, making sure the team's aware of those is going to be paramount. You're staying on top of that. They see that particular slippery area, or they see that unlit area, or they see the, that opening in the roof that we want to be concerned with. This is a great way that, they may not say something right away, and you're not going to get a ton of feedback that says, oh yeah, thank God we talked about that. Otherwise I would have fallen through X, Y, Z. But you know what, next time they look at it, if they've seen some photos or if they've discussed it at the beginning of the job, they are, at least in the back of their mind, or hopefully in the top of their mind, going to be a little bit more mindful as they work around particular items, concerns, or hazards as they go. So every job is different. And again, this is just one more step in showing that the team that no matter what job we are working on, safety is something that is absolutely critical and part of your culture. So making these part of every day and every job is going to be very important. Now in Safety HQ, we really simplify this process, right? I know JHAs can be 5, 6, 7, 10 pages, whatever they might be. They could be a lot of writing. I've seen them in a whole bunch of different formats. We simplify it by, based on the page, what we've selected, it is only showing the relevant controls based on the hazards that we've identified. So these forms all use logic. They use a lot of if then, if we're dealing with this, show me this. This keeps the team very focused on what's important to them. It's taking less time actually doing just work and typing and even writing things out, and focused more on the actual hazards and concerns. So we simplify that process for them quite a bit. It lessens the time that they actually spend doing the JHA, but it heightens engagement and keeps them more mindful as they work around these tasks, because it's not just a pencil whipped, task if you go. It is a focused form that they're going to use to pay attention to what's actually happening on that job site. That's another piece that we're going to talk about here, as well as our inspections. make these relevant, guys. If you take a JHA from another particular industry that isn't relevant, or if you have something that's too long, the team's not going to be engaged. They are going to see that if we don't take the extra time to make this JHA or AHA or whatever that might be specific to us, then they know that, you know, if we're not willing to take the time there, it's again not a priority throughout the company as a whole. So this again is one of those things that really feeds into the culture and circles things together in a big picture type of way. Now on these forms, and any of these forms in Safety HQ, this isn't really something you guys can do if you are doing safety on paper, but we can really hit the point home by taking photos, you know, especially if you're using your mobile device. You can take a photo of a job site. You can highlight particular concerns. That way, when employees are working around these concerns, they've seen it. It really clicks because they've gone through this a couple of times. This is really handy on inspections too, if you want to highlight particular issues or areas of concern. Photos and visualizations are fantastic ways to keep the team engaged and really bring those concerns or items full circle. It's not just words on a page. It's not just their foreman talking to them about something, you know, on and on. These are actual things that they will walk into and see on the job site as they go. You'll notice we are also going to collect some signatures here. This is all from a record keeping standpoint in case we need any of that. Great. And for any and all of our forms, this is going to work exactly like I showed you on Toolbox Talks. These will PDF the same way. These are sorted and organized by project, date range, and who submitted them. And then we can report on these very similarly to what we had from Toolbox Talks as well. Now, I know we only got another 10 or 12 minutes here as we come to the half-hour mark. This is a good reminder. If you guys do have any questions, feel free to add those into the question box to the right. I see we already have a few coming in. I will do my best to get to as many as I can before we hit time. But yeah, keep in mind, if you guys have any questions, feel free to send those along too. So, additional items and other ways to improve your culture, right? I'm going to use forms as a big picture perspective, whether it's JHAs, site inspections. You need to do these on a job by job basis. You need to do this all the time. If this is just one-off, again, the team's not going to be used to doing these. They're going to know that this isn't important on all my jobs. Making this simple, easy to use, part of the procedure simplifies the time and effort that it takes. It gets them down to production tasks faster. It makes them safer ultimately. And that way we can keep everybody top of mind as we proceed and continue. Now, regular site inspections. This is a key item, right? This could be wrapped up in your JHAs. I've seen this done a bunch of different ways. But regularly walking the site to identify potential hazards, concerns, things that we need to be mindful of is another step for continued safety and mindfulness, right? The job site's going to continue to change, whether this is a daily job, whether this is a job that's going to take you months and, you know, or even years. If the job continues to change, it's important to continue to walk that site and make sure everything's up to date. That could change on a minute or hourly basis. New hazards, concerns, or things to be mindful of could always pop up as that job progresses. What do we see as the biggest issue and the biggest barrier for folks being able to engage with those activities? It's the logistics that it takes to record those issues. So in Safety HQ, we make this really simple. I use this basic example of, hey, this first aid kit's not on the site. We can add in this corrective action instantly. This can be routed to all of the appropriate parties. Maybe I want Ben to handle this situation. I want to take a photo of this, great. And I need this first aid kit on the site by end of day today. I don't need to stop what I'm doing. I don't need to stop my inspection to call somebody, to email somebody, to write something up on a piece of paper, what have you. It's all at my fingertips. I can do all these quickly and easily. Again, a lot of times people say, well, you know what, that might be a concern, but then I got to call Jim and I got to email Terry and I got to go back and through all these items. This is a simple, easy way to highlight deficiencies, organize what's being completed and what's not being completed. And then here in Safety HQ, we can track all that through corrective actions to see trends, analysis, to-do list type items. We can get reporting trends, which we'll talk about more as we go too. but this is a good way to stay on top of all of your activities or issues across all your job sites and crews as you go. But that brings up another issue, right? Recording. Creating a safety culture includes a lot of things, and one of which is being preventative, right? This is all great, fine, dandy. All of these things have value on their own in that they help keep your team safe, which is obviously priority number one. But in order to do that, taking it that next step further is using that information, not just collecting it and just going through the motions, using that information to track trends, track deficiencies. I can see here that we've had a lot of housekeeping issues. Maybe that's something that we need to talk to our teams about. The data is there. Your teams are telling you what these issues could be. This is a really great way to prevent an injury or an accident by looking at the data and reviewing the information that's coming in. It's all there. A good percentage of accidents don't come out of nowhere. We see these trends pop up in small deficiencies as they go that might continue to get larger or might become more numerous and create a trend. This is a good way to actually prevent those accidents. Using that information and data to make changes and make updates, that is like the top-notch safety culture that we're doing. The team sees that and sees the information that they are collecting on a regular basis, whether it's through a site inspection, a JHA, even an equipment inspection, toolbox talk, what have you. And they see, okay, wow, they're really using this data to make differences, to make changes, to be mindful of these things, to keep me and my coworkers safe. That is a flywheel effect of continuing to add more value and more safety mindfulness and continuing to grow your safety culture as you go too. So again, when they see you utilizing that information, that's really the cherry on top, and that's when things really start to blossom for you guys. So there's a lot of other things that we can get into. Again, this is not necessarily a Safety HQ demonstration today. All these forms are customizable. We could talk about those at a later date as we go. But I will mention this is a good place to track and be mindful of equipment. I know equipment is difficult to inspect, especially for those of you that are doing service work, you're in trucks regularly. Almost all of your equipment issues or accidents on the roadside, what have you, can be prevented by reviewing that equipment. Even if it isn't a faulty piece of equipment, even if all your equipment is in good working order, having your employees just take a couple of seconds to do an equipment inspection and review items that are related to that piece of equipment puts safety top of mind. It's the first thing that they're thinking before they're operating that piece of equipment, which they may have operated earlier that day, yesterday, or maybe 6 months prior. It's making them think about all those concerns and keeping safety top of mind as they continue on those items as well too. So again, you can see how these items continue to build on one another and add to that safety culture collectively. I know I'm running a hair behind, guys. We got about 3 minutes, so I'm going to focus on a couple other quick things, and then I'll answer about 2 or 3 of these questions, and then I will let you go back on your way. But again, in Safety HQ, we can track when equipment items have been inspected, make sure that the teams are doing these on a regular basis. We have full incident reporting with an OSHA 300 log. That's more procedural, not necessarily culture-based, so I'll skip that. Making safety data sheets available for the team is, again, a culture thing, making sure that they can and access all the tools that they need on the job site quickly and easily. That's what we can do by having these safety data sheets ready and available to them as they go as well too. So why does this all matter, guys? This is really important, and this is going to kind of tie to our last subject that we'll broach here in a minute. Employees, whether they admit it or not, I know you guys have probably been around a lot of tailgate talks or at least just group daily discussions or what have you. Probably a lot of smart Alex in the group, probably a lot of folks that may not take this stuff seriously, at least on the surface. But what really does matter and what we do see is that safety matters from an employee retention standpoint. Safety matters all the way across the board. People want to work with other folks that are safe. They don't want to work with knuckleheads. They don't want to work with people that are going to put them at risk. It's a dangerous trade. Whatever specialty that you guys are in, construction particularly, is dangerous. Being mindful of that and putting that focus on your employees first shows that you care. That is reflected in the retention on the back end. It's hard to find folks as it is. You're not going to lose employees, and heaven forbid you can't afford to lose them to injury or reassigning them to a job task should an injury occur. So showing that you care about all this stuff and then continuing to educate and train your teams is also important, right? If I look around and I see a lot of well-trained and educated employees on my job site, I'm going to be more at ease. Safety is going to be more top of mind for me. And again, the numbers are there to show that that really helps keep your employees with you as you continue to grow and take on more jobs. How do we do that? We track and manage lessons. We have a full SDS, or not SDS, we have a full lesson library that you guys can utilize and review. We can embed videos, assign this to employees, require them to take quizzes, and then most importantly, whether it's done through our lessons module or whether you do this through a consultant or on-site or elsewhere, we can track all of your certifications for your employees, notify you in advance of those certifications coming due, and you can upload those or access these anywhere. So if you need to show somebody certification card or certificate, they have the ability to do so from their phone. And again, your employee getting a notification, hey, so-and-so, your certification is going to be expiring in 30 days. We got to get you updated on this training. What does that show? That shows so much in the fact that not only are you on top of it, not only is safety a priority, but you care about the employee. So having those notifications in a organized, meaningful way to track who needs to be updated on certifications is critical. We got a lot of tools to do that in Safety HQ. I'd be happy to show you guys that on an individual demo should you ever be interested in doing so. How can you do so? You can contact me, Eric, right here through the contact method below. I know we're at time, but I did promise some questions, guys, so I will answer 2 or 3 of these. Let's see. We got a question from Kara Kara is in Wyoming. So Kara, thanks for joining us today. Kara is asking, is this a per user product? How is this managed? This is big picture for safety. And the only reason I'm going to answer this, I know it's more of like a Safety HQ licensing question, but the reason I'm going to answer this is because it matters to everybody. For Safety HQ, it's a company license as a whole. We don't charge you per user. Making safety accessible to everyone on the team is critical, right? Everyone that needs or has, a hand in safety, giving them the tools available is what we're all about. So for Safety HQ, we don't charge you per user, but regardless of how you're doing it, bringing everybody into the safety fold is one of the biggest components that you can add. If this is just superintendents, just foremen, it really creates a dissonance between them and your employees working out in the field. To create a safety culture, everybody from your owner to the apprentice that you just hired in the field or what have you, all of them need to know that safety is important, that safety is something that we are not going to sacrifice or cut corners on, and safety is something that we are going to continue to elevate and work on as we go. So that's the only reason I kind of take that question. Thanks, Kara. I appreciate that one as well. And then I'll take one last question here. This is a good one. This one's from Carlo. So Carlo here in Delaware. Carlo is asking, how can and I see another, Terry's got a similar question here as well too, but Carlo's asking, I got a lot of groups that don't seem to focus on these items, and it's really hard to get, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's difficult to get them all, buying in or focusing on these things. I get that. And I get that question almost every time we do one of these webinars. I get that question anytime I talk with anybody on this. Buy-in is critical. And you know what? You might have some knuckleheads that don't take these safety talks seriously or don't take the JHA seriously on day one. They're going to probably gripe when you first implement this and add more steps to your safety culture and your procedures. But I tell you what, guys, at the end of the day, they do realize that makes an impact, that they care, that this is because you guys care about them. Continue to emphasize that, hey, this is something we do because we care about you guys. We want you to be safe on the job site. Again, if you say, hey, we really care about you, what's the response going to be? Probably a knucklehead response, but that does get through. And you know your team really well, and you know that actually does make an impact. The team will feel that and notice that. And then again, if you continue to do this day after day, month after month, year after year, the jokes aren't as funny anymore. You know, it's not as big of a change. It's just part of what you do, and then everyone's bought in. That is when you truly have a safety culture from there too. So you're probably going to get some resistance. You're probably going to get some goofballs in there, but start from square one, and continue to, you know, to say, hey, this isn't going away, guys. We need to do this every day, and you'll really see the change in responsiveness from your team as you go too. So with that, I know I'm about 5 minutes over, guys. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, give us a call. Some contact info there below. We'll have a recording of this afterwards as well. But thanks so much, everyone, for attending. And you guys have a safe day. Take care.